Okay.
Okay.
Okay, good evening. We are here this evening with Dr. Jeff Holeness, and Dr. Holeness is running for the school board. Good evening, Dr. Holeness. How are you doing this evening, sir?
Good evening, Mr. Adams. Thank you so much for having me, and Mr. Wayne and Mr. Darrell. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you for
Well,
joining us.
thank you very much, and we want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to stop by the Adams Brothers podcast. So we'll just go right on in and just introduce yourself and tell everybody about you and where you grew up and your education. Just tell us all about you.
Wonderful. Well, I just like to say good evening to the listeners. I am Dr. Jeff Holeness, candidate for Broward County School Board at Large, Seat 9. Well, Darrell, I grew up in Fort Lauderdale. I came to the United States as an immigrant. I grew up as a child in Fort Lauderdale in a small community called Melrose Park, and I attended Dillard High School as a child. I graduated from Dillard, and Dillard has laid the foundation for what I have become today. I also went back to the community, and I became a teacher at Dillard Community School under Mr. Willie London. After that, I actually went on and became a middle school teacher for Broward County Schools. I've taught at Apollo Middle School, Lions Creek Middle School, and Walter C. Young Middle School. I've also taught at the university level as well, teaching intercultural communications to adults to help them to be more culturally and racially tolerant in their respective vocation. So I graduated from Nova Southeastern University. I did a master's in curriculum design, and I also did a doctor of education in organizational leadership. And I've spent 17 years in Broward County schools. I've also opened a learning center, which is called Kumon Math and Reading in Coral Springs. And I have been doing that for the last 5 years. So I have over 22 years in education in Broward County, and I have served many different communities. So I have the unique experience of understanding the various communities, and this being a county-wide seat, that makes it quite appealing and quite beneficial as a candidate running for Broward County at the county-wide level. So that's pretty much my background. I am a father. I have two sons, Matthew and Jordan, and they both attend public schools in Broward County. My older son is actually an ESC student. He has ADHD. And as a result, I understand very well, Wayne and Darrell, the concerns that parents with kids with certain challenges have. And I intend as a school board member to adequately and effectively meet the needs of our learning disabled students. And we have approximately 40,000 of them as well. And, when elected, I will be the only father on Broward County School Board. There are 9 wonderful women, and one of them is leaving. So it's an open seat, and that leaves a seat where I think it would be quite beneficial to put a father there to offer that added unique and diverse perspective to the board as well.
Okay, so you've worked in the school board system for a while, and now you're ready to take that next step, huh?
Yes, sir. I think I'd like to be in a greater capacity, in a capacity to make a greater difference, rather, in the lives of so many children. And we are at a very serious junction where we are faced with the COVID-19 pandemic. We're also faced with the unrest due to police brutality and all these things that are happening with our children. And now more than ever, it is really important to have someone there who has the right experience, the right knowledge, and the right attitude to be able to navigate these stormy waters that we now have.
Okay. Dr. Holeness, what motivated you to become a school board member?
Well, I would say my
to
motivation—
run for school board, I should say.
To run for school board, right.
Yes.
My motivation has always been to look out for the needs of our needy children. And, when I look at what our children are going through today, I mean, they are living in unprecedented times. Prior to COVID, we had Stoneman Douglas tragedy that took 17 beautiful lives. And then we have the COVID pandemic, which now put our kids in a position to having to do e-learning, which is the next best option. But we also have, as opposed to on campus, but we also have children who have, concerns with issues such as what we've seen with the way some of our folks are being treated in the general society, that also impact our children when it comes to being racially and culturally tolerant. So I would say when I look at the needs of our students, especially our economically disadvantaged students, our ELL students, which is English language learners, our ESC students, which is our disabled students, and our homeless students, I think that it is really important now for me to step up and serve in another capacity to be able to help these children in order to succeed in Broward County schools, especially in these challenging times. So for me, I see a great need. I believe I have the experience to do it, and I also have the right knowledge and the right attitude. And now more than ever, it's important that we have someone there who can really effectively meet the needs of our most needy students. So that's what motivates me, and that is what has always motivated me as an educator, why I continue to serve in different capacities. And by the way, Darrell, when I started off as a teacher, within my first 5 years, I had upward trajectory of leadership experience. It did not take me a whole long time to actually assume these leadership positions that I could make a difference on a greater capacity. So I've always had that mentality to want to put myself in a position where I can have a greater impact on the lives of our needy children. And within my first 5 years, I became an assistant principal designee. I became the school advisory council chair for a couple of schools. I became the diversity awareness committee chair. And I also founded student learning communities where I helped our students in the lowest percentile have maximum learning gain on the state standardized tests. So the school board run is one, the reason I made that decision is because I believe our kids are really in need at this time. And I believe I have the right skills to be able to meet those needs.
Well, you mentioned leadership, and that leadership is very important, and also vision. So that's my follow-up question. It will be, what is your vision for education in Broward County?
Well, you know, when we look at the overall vision, I think for me, I want to see, for example, our students, for example, our students that are having certain, there's these disparities that exist with some of our students. For example, if we look at our graduation rate, right? We do have improvement in the graduation rate, but there's still this significant disparity among groups, right? For example, African Americans, the graduation rate for African Americans is 81%. The graduation rate for Hispanics is 86%. The graduation rates for whites is 91%. So there's still this significant disparity, even though there has been an improvement in the graduation rate overall, especially since 2011. The average graduation rate went from 71 to 86%, but there's still this disparity among specific groups. And part of my vision is to see all our students, regardless of racial and cultural background, are performing at optimum levels. And I think that I would like to see us introduce programs and initiatives that will narrow these gaps that we're seeing as well. You know, so that's a part of my vision, and I think we can achieve that through effective mentorship, through effective programs and resources, and also through having equitable distribution of resources in our county. Now, when I say equitable distribution of resources, sometimes we look at it, some people may interpret that as equal distribution of resources, but it's different. Equal means everyone gets the same. Equitable means that you look at those who are in need, and they may need a little bit more, right? So we have to have equitable distribution of resources so we can address the needs of our most needed students in the county.
All right, Wayne?
Okay, Dr. Holeness, what do you see as the board's role and responsibility to the citizens?
Well, I mean, if we were to look at what the board is assigned to do in its defined role, and I'll talk about that, and I'll talk about some other things that the board can do. Now, the board is supposed to look at and approve the budget, right? So that's a part of the requirement of the board. The board is also supposed to hire, and if need be, to fire the superintendent. So that's another role of the board. And the board is supposed to set policies that would influence student learning outcome. So those are the three main duties of the board. But the board needs to be much more than that, right? We need to be able to engage the community that we're living in. We need to be able to look at the needs of specific communities, and especially when you're looking at a countywide race, every community has a different need. So the board, as a countywide member on the board, one need to understand the specific needs of different communities because they're not all the same. So the board has to have a great connection with the community. And in order to establish that connection, we have to build community partnerships with our municipalities, with our community agencies, and even with our churches. We need to understand what the needs are of these different communities in order to be able to be an effective school board member and to be collectively effective as a board. So that involves a lot of communication, a lot of engagement on the community level, in addition to the defined role of a school board member.
Okay, and also a follow-up question to what you were saying about the superintendent firing, the board's role in firing the superintendent. What kind of job performance do you give Superintendent Robert Runcie so far?
Well, right. Well, I'll pull my data because that question has come up a lot. But the superintendent is based upon what I've seen, is an exceptional superintendent. I give him a high performance rating, and there's no apology for that because I've seen that in how the superintendent improved graduation rate since he's been here. I mean, look at this. Since 2011 to now, the graduation rate went up by 15%. When we look at, it went up from 71% to 86%. Also, under Mr. Runcie's watch, he ended zero tolerance policies for nonviolent offenses in schools. And as a result of that, student arrest rate went down by 65%. So that, and also when you look at our industry certification, he has expanded vocational and technical centers where a student earns over 6,000 industry certification. And in fact, when you look at other accomplishments, he has established the district's first military academy. He has improved the graduation rates for all groups, including African Americans, whites, and Hispanics. When you look at the disabled students with learning disabilities rather, and students who have specific disability concerns, like my son is ADHD, their graduation rate went up by more than 30%. So when you look at all these accomplishments and all these excellent learning outcomes that we've seen under Mr. Runcie, I would say that his performance is high rating. Now, yes, there are areas, just like with anyone else, that we can have some improvement, right? And I know there is some concern about the renovation aspect of the SMART bond. And the SMART bond, for those listeners who may not know, the SMART bond, which passed in 2014 by the voters, was meant to take care of several things, right? So if you look at each letter in SMART, the acronym, S means safety, and part of that was to provide single point entries for schools along with other safety measures. Mr. Runcie has pretty much done most of that. And then when you look at M, which is basically music and the arts, he has done well in that area as well. When you look at athletics, we have improved our athletic facilities. When you look at the T for technology, he has done significant amount of work in terms of improving our technological resources and so on. So the part of the SMART bond that's an issue is the renovation aspect of the bond, which is the repairs and of schools that is somewhat slow. So when I do get on the board, I intend to work with Mr. Runcie and the current board to expedite the renovation aspect of the bond. And I know that all of us are a bit concerned about that, but that's an area that I will work with the superintendent on. But overall, when you look at the learning outcome of students, he has done an exceptional job. And we must always remember too that the credit does not only go to Mr. Runcie. All of our teachers, our staff, everyone who works within the district is the part of that process. But he's the ultimate leader of us, and he has therefore, in my opinion, has shown exceptional leadership in increasing the learning outcome of our students.
Okay, and a follow-up question to that question. How do you think Superintendent Runcie handled the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas shooting aftermath?
Well, look, no one is ever prepared for what happened. I mean, school shootings is not something that anyone anyone can be, can anticipate. And when it happens, it's really all of us are in grief, including our superintendent, including our communities, not just Parkland, including communities all across Broward. So I believe that Mr. Runzi, when the incident happens, has given it, a really have given it diligent efforts to try to respond to that crisis, to try to make schools safe, to try to improve the overall safety and security of not only schools in Parkland, but also schools across Broward. And if you look at the upgrades of, for example, the camera systems, the surveillance system, the single point entries, different alert systems, different trainings that are now being provided in terms of also going out and seeking, for example, the next generation referendum to pay part of that money for school resource, school security officers. I believe about 20 plus million of that 96 million was spent on safety and security. So he has responded to it in a very, very caring and diligent way. Now, I think the concern that many people have is why did it happen and how could it happen? And, in retrospect, we can always say that, there's more we could do. But sometimes you don't always see all the weaknesses that exist until something happens. But I believe that he has worked diligently to try to create a safe school environment for all of the county since that incident occurred. And mark it, Stoneman Douglas is one of several schools in the United States that unfortunately had experienced this kind of tragedy. And we have to come together as a community to really try to heal and to try to make our schools safer. So I think he has tried diligently to do that, and I think that he's been very much he's responded to suggestions, and he has acted on behalf of the community the best way that we can. And for me, I hope we never see that happen in Broward County again. But I believe we're doing everything we can to ensure that that doesn't happen. I believe that deep down, just like all of us, Mr. Runzi, the current school board, and those who held leadership positions in the county, they're all grieving at what happened, and they're all hurt by what happened, including our parents who are victims of this and are the ones who were actually there. But I think others like myself and leaders in the community, we are very saddened by what happened. And by the way, my two sons actually attend Parkland schools, and they were there at the time of the tragedy. So I know firsthand how the kids are feeling. And sometimes we talk about the adults, but children are feeling fear, they're feeling anxiety, they're feeling hurt. And even my sons ask me about that. They're like, my older son who's in middle school said, will I have to go to Stoneman Douglas? So I'm still dealing with that even years to come about the situation that happened in Parkland. But I think all of us are in this together, and we want what's best for our students.
Okay, thank you, Daryl.
Dr. Holeness, I know a lot of people, friends, some of them, well, a lot of them are friends and they're school teachers. I heard you mention school teachers.
Right.
And I often talk to them and I pick their brains about, their job and, and how much they like the job. And all of the school teachers that I talk to, right, they really love their job. And me personally, I think that they are grossly underpaid, and not only the teachers, but their aides as well. And I asked several of them, about cost of livings and pay raises, and they were like, well, we really don't get pay raises. We get them like every other year or every so many years. And the teachers will get a raise, but the aides, they fall up under a different umbrella. Oftentimes the aides don't get the raise that the teachers get. So my question to you, sir, would be, would you support higher pay for teachers and their aides if you're elected to the school board?
And other support personnel too.
Right. Look, of course, I would support higher pay for all our staff. If you look at our county, all of our staff are underpaid. They're not paid what they need to be paid. But we have to also look at the bigger picture, right? So, to answer your questions, yes, our teachers, our support staff, and so on, they should be better paid. Um, and in fact, when you look at teacher pay for the state of Florida, we're ranked 46 in the nation, 46 in the nation in terms of how we pay our teachers. And I'm sure that we are ranked very low. I don't know the exact data for our support staff, but I'm sure that is also very low. So we need to be able to better compensate our staff and our teachers, so that way, they can be able to provide for their families. They don't have to seek a second or third job to make a living in addition to what they're doing. But let me just say this, Wayne and Darrell, what we have to also understand is the bigger picture, right? Part of the problem is really Tallahassee, right? Because they give the school district this small pot of money, and that has to be divvy among teachers and staff and everything else. In fact, we have a $4 billion budget. 2.6 billion out of it goes towards general funds, and from the general funds, about 65% of that is used to pay our teachers and staff, right? And then 35% is left to run everything else. Now, the 1.3 billion in the capital outlay funds, that's for capital projects. That's more for school infrastructure and maintenance and so on. So from the 2.6 billion, 65% of it goes towards teachers and staff. The 35% that remains from those general funds, we use to cover everything else. So what we find is that when we do spend that 2.6 billion, it's still not enough, right? Because the state doesn't give us enough money. So what we have to do is we have to have collective advocacy on a statewide basis so we can get more money to pay our staff and teachers. Because I can tell you this, if we were to use everything the state should give us, if we had the capability of using the entire $4 billion to pay teachers, our teachers in the state of Florida would still be underpaid. So the problem lies with those in Tallahassee making the decisions about how they fund public schools. And public schools are funded by two main sources, by sales tax, as well as what they call the required local effort, which is our millage on our properties, right? Now, in the last 5-6 years, the state of Florida continued to reduce the millage rate that they use to fund schools. And so we have less money coming in order to take care of our students. So I think part of the issue really, Wayne and Darrell, is that we have to look to Tallahassee and we have to hold them accountable and we have to have a loud voice. The problem is there's a small number of people making a loud noise in Tallahassee, and we need a large number of people to make a very loud noise. And I think that's the direction we need to go. So we are not ranked 46 in the nation. In fact, you look at the New York State, they pay their teachers double what they pay teachers down here in the state of Florida. And I think they're ranked within the top 5. So we can do better in the state of Florida, but the problem is not just local. The problem is at the state level as well.
One follow-up question. Do you know how much money that the Florida Lotto gives to education? Because I see that on TV a lot, that they are proud sponsors of education here in the Florida. So I'm curious as to how much money they're giving for education. Right.
Well, listen, unfortunately, the Florida Lotto was supposed to fund education in a much better way, right? So now the Lotto money that we have is usually used for school recognition rewards. And it's a very minor amount. It's about $13.3 million, right? That we use for Broward, as far as Broward County is concerned. Now, that's just a tip in the bucket for basically what our school district needs. So as far as I know, the Florida Lotto money is not significant in terms of the funding that we would need from it in order to offset other areas of concern, such as teacher compensation and staff compensation. And we use that money primarily for school recognition rewards, as opposed to to other areas of need and focus.
Thank you. Wayne?
Yes, I have two last questions, and then we can get down to wrapping it up. Dr. Holeness, how do you think, or how do you feel morale is currently right now at the Broward school system, in the Broward school system?
Well, when you say the school system, you mean among teachers, among
The
among
support
teachers?
staff, cafeteria workers, everyone else.
Look, the bottom line is this, and I was a teacher in Broward County Schools for 17 years, and I'm still an educator. I run a learning center, and most of the teachers that I know, they love what they do. They love to make a difference in the lives of children. They're passionate about their jobs. Are they underpaid? Yes. Could we improve their working conditions? I think there are areas of improvement. Yes. And sometimes because of that, the morale may not be as high as it should be. But with that being said, we should never, make morale synonymous with the teacher motivation and interest. Teachers are always motivated and interested in making a difference. It's just that we need, as a district, to unturn over every stone to see how we can ensure that they're properly compensated, they're treated with respect, they're valued, they're recognized, they feel appreciated. And I think that we must always put great effort in those areas. Even if we're not able to pay teachers what they're worth because we don't have enough money from Tallahassee, we have to find other ways to ensure that our teachers are feeling valued. And from what I know is, even with all the disadvantages that teachers have as far as their compensation and so on, they still go to work every day being motivated to make a difference in the lives of our young people. And so as leaders of this district, we need to ensure that we are letting them realize how much they're valued, how much they're recognized, and how much we need them as a part of this district. And if you look at e-learning today, if you look at what has happened because of COVID, we now know more than ever how much teachers are really needed, right? Because we had to transition our education system to an e-learning platform, which requires a bit greater dependency on our parents. And even with that, our parents are starting to realize the amount of work that is involved in instructing a child. So I think that teachers are highly motivated people. We do need to show more value, place more value on our teachers, and we do need to make sure that they feel, acknowledged, and they feel like they're valued as well. So yes, I would say we can do some work in that area.
And I got one final question for you. And if Daryl, you have anything else after that, then we can wrap it up and give him his final closing statement. Dr. Holeness, if elected, would you make yourself more available to Black media and try to encourage the school board to make themselves more accessible and available to Black media?
Okay, I think your video paused for a little bit, but of course, in fact, I don't. I wasn't aware that some of our school board members are not making themselves available to Black media, but if that's the case, listen, for students are African American students, and we look at when you look at our students overall. When we're speaking to Black media, we're also speaking to our African American parents and so on and so forth. So we must make ourselves available. And yes, of course, that is a given. Will always be willing, and will always be receptive to any time that you both need me to speak. I will be here. I will be available. You can count on that, and that will not be an issue, because we have to ensure that all of our parents are being informed. And one of the best ways to inform our parents is through our media sources. And sometimes mainstream media may not reach certain specific students, right? For example, you also have many of our students who may be English language learners. And we also need to make sure we're reaching those students. We have our African-American students that we have to be sure that we are on the right media channels to reach our parents in our communities as well. So yeah, I am readily available, and I don't see an issue there for me at all. I wasn't aware there was an issue with others. I hope there isn't, because that would not be.
Well, the
That would not.
superintendent haven't made himself accessible, to Black
To
media.
Adams Brothers.
To the Adams Brothers, yes.
Yes.
Okay, well, I will have a talk with Mr. Runzi to come and speak with you guys. I don't know if it's I can't speak to it. I don't know if it's his schedule and so on and so forth. But I don't think that should be an issue. And listen. I'll have that dialogue. I'll see if Mr. Runzi will come on and chit chat with you all as well.
Okay. That's it for me, Daryl.
Yes.
Okay, Dr. Holeness, in closing, why should the people of Broward County, the voters, elect you to the Broward County School Board? You have the floor.
Right. You have about 5 minutes.
Oh, I have a lot of time. Well, can I just comment on something else before I talk about that? Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay. The reason I want to comment on this is because what happened is we're looking at all our kids going on now to e-learning, and just remember, it's going to be 100% e-learning until we can get the positive rate down for COVID-19. And many of our parents are concerned about this. So I was hoping the both of you would ask something about that, because I just wanted to inform parents as to what to expect, So anyway, since we have to resort to e-learning 100%, I am going to be that person who will be a strong advocate for creating an enhanced e-learning platform. Now, we had a response to the COVID-19 pandemic in March, and we sort of went to e-learning, but it wasn't as enhanced as it should be, right? It was the quickest. We had to respond quickly, and so we started e-learning without a real effective plan. But now that we're moving into the next school year, I believe that we're going to have a more enhanced learning, and I am a supporter of that. I want to make sure that our e-learning platform is less dependent on parents, that we have more student-teacher interaction, that we have more live streaming, and so on and so forth, and that we are providing strong support for all of our students, including our English language learners, including our children with learning disabilities, that the instructors, the teachers are accessible as well. So that's going to be one of my focuses, that we have a strong e-learning platform as we navigate through COVID-19, because we don't know how long we're going to have to deal with this. We don't know if there will be another spike. Fortunately, we see that the positive rate is dropping. I think it's 8 point something the last time I checked today. So that's a good thing, because we're coming down from 16%, which was pretty high. So yeah, I am a strong supporter of the e-learning platform as well. And when we do go back on campus, I am a strong supporter of ensuring that our kids are safe, that we're having effective plans in place for social distancing, wearing masks, for having temperature checks, and for just ensuring that our kids are well protected on school grounds. So with that being said, I just wanted to put that in there.
Thank you for adding that in too.
No problem. You're welcome. So I'll just say that I am running to create a brighter future for children in Broward County. We are living in unprecedented times, and in these times of uncertainty, we need someone with the right experience, the right knowledge, and the right attitude in order to move our children to a positive future. I have been a strong educator in Broward County. I have been a teacher for over 17 years, and I am currently the owner of a learning center. Now, I am a business owner owning a learning center, and I believe that will bring another unique experience and skill to Broward County School Board. And what I have done, Wayne and Darrell, is I have actually, in response to COVID-19, I have transformed my business into an effective, enhanced online platform. So 100% of my students in my Kumon Learning Center, they're now online. And if you go to even Google reviews and different review sites, you will see some of my parents commenting on how well and how happy they are with the transition that we've made as a learning center. In my learning center as well, I am the Pioneer Learning Center, and there are 1,600 Kumon centers in the US. I am the Pioneer Kumon Center, training other Kumon centers to effectively instruct online. So I am bringing that adaptability to Broward County School Board in this time of COVID-19 that is unique when you look at all the others running for this seat. In addition to that, we have a 9-member board, and on that board, one individual is leaving, which leaves an open seat, but there is no father on Broward County School Board. 52% of our students are males and 48% of our students are females. Having no father representation there for our daughters and our sons, I think it's a very significant beneficial additive to the board. So when elected, I will be one father among our 9-member school board. And I think that perspective would be unique, as well as adding that diversity to the board for our students. So that's another area of difference. In addition to that, I am the only one running with a state of Florida certification in educational leadership. I am also the only one running who has studied at the doctoral level in education, completing a Doctor of Education in Organizational Leadership. So I am bringing a wealth of knowledge as well as a wealth of experience to the board that I believe will be quite beneficial. So I am asking for the support of the voters. I believe that at this time, I have that knowledge and experience and attitude to be able to move our children forward, to be able to make a difference in the lives of children. And I just want to mention that the areas of focus that I have as a candidate is, number one, is our school safety, especially in the era of COVID-19. And number two, addressing mental health issues in our children. I think if we focus on mental health of our children, we will be able to basically handle some of the issues that we have as far as school safety as well. So mental health of our children is very important, and we need to invest in that area. We also need to value our teachers, our staff, and our students, not just one entity. We need to value everyone. So in addition to that, I think, give me a second, Angie. In addition to that, we have to also place focus on our ESC students. And at the same time, we must build community partnerships with our community, with our community agencies, with our municipalities. So I'm asking the voters for your support. And my website is www.jeffholeness.com. And also, if you want to look at my priorities in more details, you will see that on my website. All right. So I thank you so much for really having me. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it. There you have it. Dr. Jeff Holeness. He's running for Broward County School Board. Which district was that again, sir?
It's District 9. So
District
it's a countywide seat. It's a countywide seat. And,
countywide seat.
Right, which means it covers all 31 cities.
31 cities.
Yes.
Okay, well, Dr. Jeff Holeness, good luck to you, sir. And when you're elected, be sure to come back by and talk to Black media. Come back by and talk to the Adams Brothers Podcast. We'll be happy to have you on, and good luck to you, sir, in a couple of weeks.
Yes, thank you both for having me, and I am always accessible. You can invite me anytime.
Absolutely. Yeah. Have a good evening, sir, and thank you.
Appreciate it.
And early voting starts this Saturday, correct?
This Saturday at 9 o'clock. This Saturday at 9 o'clock is early voting, and it goes on for 9 days up until August 16th.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you,
All right,
sir.
gentlemen. Thank you so much.
Have a good evening, Dr. Holeness.
Right. Thank you. Appreciate it.